So I do want to mention one thing, and I hope if I'll totally cut this out if you don't want me to talk about this or mention this, but I have some friends who are big in the Burning Man community.
Oh yeah,
and when we're huge fans of your brother, and
Thanks,
said Dan was they loved him and said that he did amazing things for the community, and it's a nice group. It's a real nice group.
That's really right. No, and certainly don't cut this out at all, man. I'm delighted to talk about him in that way. It's true. I went to Burning Man. I didn't get to go to Burning Man this year, but I went last year, and people were just coming up to me constantly and being like, "Your brother changed my life." Just wanted to tell you,
yeah,
like all the time, and it's really true. He's a very special guy.
I think outsiders kind of look at Burning Man and they go, "Well, let's just go to the desert with a bunch of hippies," and you're like, but when you realize what it is, it's like this kind of tight knit group of people who really support each other.
Yeah,
and it's really kind of a beautiful. I have to get all mushy, but it's kind of a beautiful thing. It's like people come together in an environment that humans should not be in the desert.
That's right. There's no life there. And there's not even bugs can't even survive.
And they bring life to it. They support each other and with creativity and with and
there's no money. Everyone's just like loving on each other and bringing art and making art and supporting each other and encouraging everybody to become the best version of themselves that they can be.
Yeah.
And it absolutely changed his life. I mean, I remember when he first went, and he came back just so different. And I went the next year because he was so excited about it. And it really is. It's kind of, I don't know. I went 2 years ago just briefly, but I don't know. Everyone said it was different this year. And I don't know if that's true or not, but it's kind of the most beautiful party I've ever seen. It's just because it's all art. There's no profit. I mean, I guess someone's turning a profit somewhere, but hardly. I don't think.
Well, there's no pretense. I mean, like there's no. It's not like Burning Man brought to you by Snapple or whatever. It's.
No, it's true. Everyone's just, it's all about finding the most awesome part of yourself and bringing it out.
Yeah.
And that's where he became Burning Dan.
Yeah.
And, he was shy when he was younger. Always like super smart and really funny, but sort of introverted. And Burning Man was really the turning point. I mean, amongst plenty of other things, of course, but, where I just watched him evolve as a person so much and become this really extroverted and lovable dude. Like anybody who met him, just the positivity would just radiate out of him.
Yeah,
and I do credit Burning Man in a lot of ways for that.
No one has ever called this phone.
There he is.
Oh my God! I should have answered it.
It's all right.
That would have been so amazing. Like, why'd they hang up on me? I got one call. What the fuck? I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
Man, I appreciate you bringing him up like that.
No, I think it's it's nice, and you clearly have a lot of love for your brother, and and I'm sorry that you lost him, and but I do think. I think it's heartening in a way that where a lot of people may not. You have this community that kind of keeps him alive, and I know that he's probably legendary in that community, and that he'll always be a part of it.
It's true, man. Yeah, he's Burning Dan.
Have you ever thought maybe some type of documentary or some kind of anything about?
Yeah, I think about that all the time. I have all of his hard drives, and
wow.
We started this thing. Or he helped me kind of start this thing, or we started it together, whatever you say, but called hitRECord.
Yeah,
which is a great thing.
Oh, thanks, man. Thank
really
you.
Cool.
Thank you.
Where a lot of the profit goes back to the artist.
That's right. Yeah, and it's become this kind of collaborative production company now, where everybody can log on and contribute to these projects that we do, and then when we make money, we split the profits and send checks out to contributing artists. But before it was that. And that's only like 2 years old that it became this professional production company thing. But for a number of years before that, it was just this kind of thing that my brother and I would say to each other. And it represented just kind of being creative. The record button became this kind of symbol for doing that. And he took it really seriously. He hit record like all the time. He has like I have this huge container full of hard drives of photos. He took tons of photos, and he also recorded a lot of audio. of just like conversations that he had. And for sure, I do consider it sort of a project I'll be working on for the rest of my life, kind of framing that stuff and turning it into art. And you know, it's difficult, to be honest, at this point to work on it. And I know that it'll get more doable over time.
Sure.
But absolutely, like, and he's always in. He's in a lot of hitRECord stuff, you know, like if for no other reason than just his spirit is there. Like, we actually sent this last Burning Man. Well, the Burning Man where I went, which wasn't this most recent one, but the one before, we sent the first. I brought the first copy of our first anthology, Recollection, up there and put it in the temple for it to burn up, you know. And this last year we put the first pressing of this. We just made this vinyl record of music. It's the best music we've ever made. It's called Move On the Sun. And I couldn't go, but I sent my friend Jeff Peff with the first copy of the vinyl to go put it in the temple and burn up, you know, at Burning Man for him. And he's very much still, you know, in it and there, and everyone on the site, if you're sort of in the community, knows who he is and is aware like of his spirit. He was so encouraging and so positive, and that's still, I think, part of what happens at hitRECord. People feel welcome and people feel unafraid to try things and you know, put their art out there, and that's very Dan. Like, he's always the one who was like bringing that kind of positivity to it. And so we keep that going.
And so what is, you know, when, and maybe you haven't even figured this out yet, but you know, if there's one thing that you want people to take away from Dan's life and kind of implement into their own lives, what do you think that would be?
That's a good question. Well, like, one way to answer that would be, to mention his favorite book ever was Green Eggs and Ham.
Okay.
And the lesson in that, but it's a truly brilliant work of art. I don't know when the last time you picked up a copy of Green Eggs and Ham was, but it's so brief and so eloquent and so fun, and the message in it is like so healthy that you got to try things. Even if it looks weird, if you try it, you really might like it, you know. And that's him at Burning Man too. And he tells this story about when he started spinning fire. He eventually became, I would argue, the best fire spinner that I've ever seen. But I guess I'm biased, but ask a lot of people. He really was like a special artist when it came to spinning fire. And he tells this story about how he never used to think that he was the kind of guy that could do that. Because he was the kind of guy that would maybe just, you know, dress modestly, and, you know, he worked on computers and stuff, and, you know, has sort of a quiet voice, and wasn't the kind of guy that could light something on fire and spin it around and make everybody around all look at him. But at Burning Man, he decided to do it. And he got so good at it, you know, and it became this. He became Burning Dan. He started a school, Flow Temple, you know, that still exists, and like, that's the people who tend to come up to me at Burning Man and say, "Your brother changed my life." It's usually fire spinners. It's usually people who he taught flow to, spinning poi, and you know, you have to. The hardest step though is sort of just trying it, you know. At the very beginning, you're like, I can't really do that. Just give it a try, you know. Like, I'm not gonna like that. Those eggs and ham are green, you know. But like, you know, at some point, you have to kind of trust Sam I Am and let it happen.
Well, and I think most people, and I think what we always try to tell people on this podcast is, you have to do it. You have to try stuff. No one, when they start out, really has any more information than you have. The only difference is they just tried the thing,
right?
And you're gonna fall down,
right?
And it's gonna suck for a while,
that's right.
But you will get better, and you will appreciate the process. And then before you know it, then some kids come up and go, "How do I start doing that?" And you go, "You just fucking start."
Yeah, you just have to try it. Yeah. Well, that's so him, man, and that is also hitRECord. Like, that's the idea that the hardest part is pushing the button to like actually get started, and then you're recording, and then, you know, then you can go from there, and you can go back and edit it, and you don't have to put it out there, and you can hit record again and try something new, and you don't have to. It's not the end of the world, and nothing really bad is going to happen.
It doesn't have to be perfect when you start.
That's right. It really doesn't.
And sometimes the imperfections, the accidental imperfections, a lot of times actually are what give things their personality and become their best things.
That's right.
Like when Kyle put his face against the window. No, actually, that was the worst part of this. That was the worst part. But also just that, I like to kind of have this idea that once you start, even you don't have all the answers up front. You don't need to have all the answers up front. But as you start down a path, answers really do reveal themselves to you, but you just have to be walking down that path.
You have to do it, yeah. There's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path.